All right. So in all the years I've been coaching real estate agents and quite frankly, just in this business, there have been what I call 10 warning signs that tell me, all right, this agent is either going to fail if they don't change anything or they're headed that direction. And so my thought today, Ben, was on today's episode, we would raise the awareness around these 10 warning signs so that people that perhaps, relate to any of these can say, you know what, that's a really good point. I can recognize that a bit in my behavior, and they can do something about it before it's too late. And so let's jump into number one, and we'll rock and roll. So number one warning sign is that the agent is changing brokerages multiple times within 6 months. Now, there's nothing wrong with changing companies and making a business case to change companies or to join a team. That happens. Quite frankly, in most real estate agents' career, there are probably a business argument for reasons why you should change a company. However, when we see, like we call it brokerage hoppers, they put so much weight into, well, this brokerage, this company, this team, this model is going to save me. And they just hop from one to the next, one to the next, one to the next, one to the next. We know that there's something going on with that person because it's not productive to change companies. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of headache. There's a lot of moving parts in it. And we see these classic brokerage hoppers. We know that's not a good thing. What are your thoughts?
I think you get into the business and you're exposed to a model or a brokerage and you're like, that sounds great. But then as you get in, you learn more, right, about the business itself. And that's what leads you to believe this model might be better or this model. And I would just argue, have an unreasonable amount of success where you are. So when you do move, it's benefiting you more than the person that's accepting you. You're taking the risk by moving, not them, right? Because a lot of times we move brokerages, the person taking you onto their team or into their brokerage, they're the ones taking risk because you don't have a track record yet.
Yeah, no doubt. And it's like what I've always here's the reality is that whatever company or flag you wear, whatever badge you wear, representing whatever brokerage, I truly believe, Ben, is irrelevant.
I agree.
And the reason why I believe that is because there's so much evidence that it's true. And by evidence, I mean there is very, 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 very successful agents at every single brokerage. So it's like, that's not the variable. The variable isn't, okay, one brokerage, every single agent is failing. And at another brokerage, every single agent is winning. No. At both companies, there are agents winning and losing. So that isn't the variable. The variable is what you see in the mirror. And so it doesn't matter what company you are with. Yes, again, I'm not taking away, I just want to be really clear. I'm not taking away that sometimes you could be with a company that can help support you in your success. But at the end of the day, it comes down to you as the real estate agent. All right. And by the way, I'm not sure if this is for you or not. You can decide. But if you're a real estate agent, you're watching this video and you're not earning at least $100,000 per year, you feel like you're overworked, you're underpaid, maybe even underappreciated, perhaps it's time to talk. If you're serious about growing your real estate sales business and you're open to having a conversation to determine if working with me as your coach makes sense or not, then click the link in the description beneath this video or simply go to reverseselling.com to book a call. All right, number 2. They don't follow a schedule. All right, so this is a big one, right? So agents get into real estate. What brings people into the industry is this idea of freedom. That's what gets them here. What's interesting, Ben, is the same thing that gets them out of the business. It's so interesting that the very thing that attracted the person in the first place was the very thing that caused them to get out of the business. Because too many people with too much freedom and a lack of direction and a lack of structure and a lack of schedule, they don't behave very well. I always tell the story of a really good friend of mine, He was an elite performer at a large sales organization. Okay, I don't want to give his identity away. I mean, he was like inside the top 1% of performers there. He talked to me for years about, wanting to get into real estate and be my own boss and do my own thing, et cetera, et cetera. One day he did it. I was shocked that he did it because I'm like, dude, you're never leaving the corporate world, dude. You are so addicted to Fridays. And what I mean by that, everyone knows, is like, you just need the paycheck. You know what I mean? Like, come on. You need the salary. You need you need it all. You're institutionalized, we call it, right?
Yeah.
You can't be an entrepreneur. Come on. So he does it. I'm not kidding, Ben. And it's not even funny, actually. The lack of structure was so bad. This was in 90 days that he found himself at the emergency room. And I don't know if I've ever told you that story. And why did he find himself at the emergency room? Because literally he was going crazy, like literally from a panic attacks, anxiety, stress, heart palpitations. He just couldn't operate in a world without guidance, or not guidance, without guardrails. He was just like left out into the wild, and he's like, I can't operate this way. And we talked about this morning. I think you and I said that most people are like really good task masters. Yeah, tell them what to do. Go chop that tree for 8 hours, and at the end of 8 hours, we're going to give you this check. People can smash it under those circumstances, but you leave somebody, say, well, you got to go create money out of thin air. It's very difficult. And so agents that don't have a schedule are kind of like that. They're just kind of wandering aimlessly through this industry of real estate until their money runs out and they got to find themselves back in the cage of the corporate world,
Absolutely. Yeah. You look at people, man, maybe even your friend, he was sitting in his W-2 job, making a great income. Man, I wish I had the flexibility to go do X, Y, Z. I wish I can do this, I can do that. But then when you are that entrepreneur, you do have that ultimate freedom. You don't have the accountability to say no to the amount of things that you need to say no to have the success, even to the level you had at the W-2, because that W-2 just gives you so much accountability to show up.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing, right? It's like and I don't say any of these things to be offensive as much as I say them to be honest. And that is that if you follow most real estate agents around, like if you're just to shadow them, you'd just be kind of scratching your head of like, well, when does like, where's the actual work happen? Like when does that actually take place? I mean, it's laughable. What were you going to say?
Well, we've talked a lot about this before, and this is the best example. If I told you right now, I would write you a check for $200,000 and all you had to do was make phone calls for 2 hours a day, would you do it? And everybody would be like, yep, I'm in.
So true.
Well, guess what? You don't need the check. You can go do that for yourself and probably make a whole lot more money. But people are more afraid of what they're going to lose than what they can gain.
You nailed it.
That is.
Yep, you nailed it. I mean, you took the words right out of my mouth, right? I mean, it's so true. That's why people operate so much better at a W-2 job than being self-employed, because they don't want to lose what they perceive they have, which is the salary, the paycheck, the insurance, the comfort of that. You put them in a world where they can make unlimited income and they don't behave very well, And so I've always said, show me your schedule and I'll show you your income. You know what I mean? Like your schedule is a direct reflection of the amount of money you make in this business or the lack thereof. All right. So let's go to number 3. Number 3, they don't have a proactive lead generation system. Okay, let's talk about this. These are all important. There are no order of importance. They're all important. This one included. Most people, and we already know the stats, right? So this is not just me. This is not me making this up. This is not theory. This is factual. The average agent, right, sells 4 houses a year because most people that get into the business, literally, they will tell you this too, do so because of the couple of people they run into per year that buy a house. I mean, that is their business in a nutshell, is the friends and family and the people that they know. Once in a while, they run into a transaction. In other words, they wait for business to find them. And so for the person who says, well, I need to make a full-time income in this business, waiting is not a great business strategy. And so we see agents obviously that succeed at a much bigger scale that makes 6 and multiple 6 or even 7 figures of doing this. They don't wait for anything. They go out there and find it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, sure, there's people that have tremendous amount of success with their sphere, don't get me wrong, but they're the perfect storm, right? They're the minority. They get into this business, they're in the perfect stage of life. They've got a huge network, this, that, and the other, whatever they did before. But yeah, we just cannot sit back and wait for it to come to us. It's just so unpredictable.
Well, and I've posted, I don't know how many hundreds and hundreds of agent success stories of agents that we've coached over the years. And one of my favorite questions is, what was the aha that you had when you got into this business that you didn't know before you got into the business? And it's always that one. It's always, well, somehow, and I didn't think about it, Brandon, which is so interesting to me. When I got my license, I got into the business, I just kind of thought people would come to me. I thought I would get my license and I guess, I don't know, magically people would just start contacting me. Well, here's a wake-up call for everybody watching or listening to the show. No one's coming for you. No one's going to save you. You have to be the one who plays offense to go out there, even if it's your sphere of influence. You know what I mean? Yes, some people have a bigger sphere business than others, but I would say even that agent is out there, is putting themselves out there some way. They're doing events, they're doing social media, they're doing content. They're putting themselves out there to let people know that they are in the business. Most people are just sitting, literally waiting and hoping. They live on hopium that somehow someone will find me to buy or sell a house. So that's number 3. All right, number 4.
That's a good point.
Yeah, number 4. They don't track their numbers. So they get into the business of selling real estate and they don't treat it like a business. And so the real estate business is one of the only businesses, Ben, where we see business owners that don't know their numbers, that don't operate from a P&L, that don't know their profit margins, that don't know their expenses. They have no clue. I mean, you ask a real estate agent, hey, what type of margins are you operating from? And they literally look at you cross-eyed. They're like, well, what margin? What do you? They have no idea. They have no clue about revenue versus profit. No clue. They don't know the difference between gross income and net income, and it's because they don't track anything, and so they don't understand what it takes to go out there and to generate a client. It's just all luck. I said, you ask an agent, well, how did you generate that last listing? Like specifically, what were the measurable, tangible, actionable things that you took in order to get that listing, so much that if I were to ask you, could you duplicate it? They're like, nope, right place, right time.
Why is this one of those things that makes people start to fail in the business? It's because if you don't track your numbers, it's all based on emotion. And that's what I love about tracking your numbers, is it takes the emotion out of it. So all of a sudden you look at the numbers and like the facts, and we can point to something and say, oh no, that isn't the reality. It might have felt that way, but actually we're right on pace, or actually we are behind. So it just takes that emotional roller coaster out of it and really lets you pinpoint exactly where you need to focus versus where you emotionally feel like you need to focus.
Yeah, the best example, and that's such a great point, Ben, is, I for the last couple of years, I've had a a personal fitness coach, and I don't know, I lost 45 pounds or something, got in really good shape, and he used to always talk about the people that succeed in this process of getting in really good shape and don't is it comes down to them tracking their calories or not. I mean, it's that simple because to your point, people are like, well, I feel like I'm eating good, I'm making good choices, but they're not tracking, the 15 chocolate covered almonds that they ate. That was like 400 calories. They're like, it's not a big deal. No, no, you don't track it. You don't know. And you're not getting results because you're not tracking it. And so you want to improve any area of your life. I promise, if you just track the amount of money you spend, you will spend less. If you track every calorie that you put in your face, you will make better decisions and you will lose weight. I promise. And this is no different. The business of sales is no different. When you track your activities and your behaviors and the amount of prospects you talk to or don't talk to, and the amount of leads you generate and the amount of appointments you set, the amount of appointments you go on, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, you start to say, okay, now I can see a trend. In weight loss, it's really, really simple. And the same thing in sales. If you are not in a calorie deficit of 500 calories per week, you will not lose weight. You just won't. And so and you don't know if you're in a calorie deficit if you don't track your numbers. The same way, if you're not tracking your business, you're not tracking your lead generation, you're not tracking what it is that you're doing, you're running your entire business off of hope and pray, luck.
So I don't want to harp on this too much, but I got one more point to make, and that's just more of a story. But I just played in a golf tournament, and you sign up. This is like the club championship, whatever, right? They're the better players in the club, right? They're expected to perform well. And one of the guys dropped out of my group after 10 holes, right? This is a 3-day event. He dropped out after 10 holes. He was not having a good day. And then even you get to the end of the day, into the tournament, and you look at the scores, right? And when you start, they put you in groups based on your handicap, which is basically an average of what you typically shoot. So you're playing with the players that are like you. And my wife was asking me, she's like, like those scores, like I don't get it. Why are they so high? Like I thought these were the better players at the golf club. So we like the almond illustration. Sometimes we choose what we want to track and what we don't want to track, right? On the good days when we're making a lot of money, we're closing deals, we count those days, right?
Yeah.
So my wife asked, how does he have such a low handicap? And it's like, well, when he doesn't have a great day, he doesn't track it. He doesn't put it in the handicap. He has an artificially low handicap. Some people are sandbaggers, meaning that they have a high handicap so they can win a lot of money. Some people have an ego handicap, which is arbitrarily low. And I think a lot of times as a real estate agent, we just want to track the good things and not the bad things, not the chocolate covered almonds. These don't count. I'm just going to have a couple of these. So when we look at the end of the day, end of the year at our 1099, and we're not happy with it, and we don't understand, how did I just shoot 100? I have a 5 handicap. How did I just shoot 85? I'm a scratch golfer. Well, are you really tracking? Are you giving yourself a false reality? Is the point I'm trying to get.
Such a great point. Oh my gosh, that's such a great analogy. The golf one's the best analogy. It's like you're only tracking your good scores, And so right. It's like, yeah, you're living in this false world. You know what I mean? It's like, typical realtor behavior on closing day. It's like they're on top of the mountain. You know what I mean? Like, closing day, and they're all excited, and it's just like, but on all the other days, like, because that only happens like 4 times a year. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then the rest of the other 300 and what is that? 61 days. They're just miserable. You know what I mean? And it's like the other thing too around tracking numbers, and then we'll move on to number 5. Is I think you're kind of alluding to this as well. Is people don't want to face their own reality. They don't want to know. And so they don't want to step on the scale naked because they're afraid of what they're going to see. They don't want to post what their bank account really looks like on Instagram. Like, they don't want that. You know what I mean? And so they
don't want to look at their bank account, let alone post it on the internet.
Yeah, exactly right. So anyway, that's number 4. Number 5, they don't have a compelling listing presentation. Okay. It does not matter how you get to the listing presentation. This is, a lot of people want to debate me, Ben, on what's the best lead generation tactic or strategy or technique, what's the best lead source, etc. It's irrelevant because when you get in front of somebody, that will determine whether or not you acquire a client or not. It's so funny. A lot of people are like, I can't believe my cousin didn't hire me. Well, it's probably because when your cousin met with you, you gave them the feeling that you didn't know what the hell you were doing. You went there and you winged it. Like I ask an agent, all the time, well, what do you do? Tell me about your listing presentation, like specifically around, how do you actually, like, what is your pricing strategy that you walk them through such that the seller has like this epiphany for the first time ever? And they're like, wow, that makes a lot of sense. You know what the answer is? Well, I go through the CMA. I go through the active and the pending and the solds. I'm like, and then what? That's what they think is a listing presentation. Most agents believe a listing presentation is you go there and you go through the CMA and then you say, I think we should list the house at this. That is to the extent of their presentation. And then they sit back and scratch their head. They say, why is no one listing their house with me? And then I say, well, what are you doing to remove the risk that a seller would take in order to hire you? Like specifically, what are the tangible things that you have in place? We call it risk reduction. What do you have in place? They don't know. I say, well, when you explain to the seller how actually you're going to position their property in front of A, the right buyers, and B, make it stand out from the other homes that they're competing with, well, what do you tell them? Those are the types of answers I get. When I ask them, I say, when you show sellers, when it comes to market positioning and how to actually enter into the marketplace, how do you know which price bracket to position their home in? You know what I mean? It's like, well, why do you think no one's working with you? You know what I mean? Like, you don't have any compelling reason that somebody is going to sign a contract and agree to pay you a whole bunch of money to sell their house. Why would they do that? You know what I mean? It's crazy. And you see it all the time too, I bet.
Yeah, I had a flashback. My first job, well, it wasn't a job. This is the story. But my dad knew a guy, made an introduction, and I met with him. And I was trying to get this job, and I was really excited about it. Family friend, right? And I was like, Dad, I didn't get it. He didn't hire me. It was a great conversation, blah, blah, blah. But he's like, I decided to go a different direction. I was like, I thought this was your friend, Dad. Like, what's the deal here? Why didn't he hire me? And he goes, son, I got you in the door. The rest is up to you. So I can teach you anything. I can open the door. And I think that's what happens a lot of times. You get in the door because of they're a friend, they're family, they're a referral. But what we do after that is totally up to you, whether you get hired or not. So it was, man, I'm so grateful I got in the door. I'm so grateful I had this appointment, but I was not equipped to win the appointment or win the job or whatever.
What a great point. I often, we get questions from agents all the time around, well, do you go through the full listing presentation if it's your mom? Do you go through the full listing presentation if it's a referral? And to which I always respond with yes, and probably more so. Because to your point, too many agents have like this entitled mindset that they feel like people owe them something. I hate that mindset. It's like people that get mad that their friends don't do business with them. It's like, what makes you think you're entitled that person is going to just give you the business because you guys went to the same high school? Like, tell me specifically. Like, what do you feel like you've done to earn that? Well, we're buddies. We have beers every Thursday night. And it's like, yes, you need to show up as a professional and have a professional, structured conversation such that the person in which you're communicating with feels confident in your ability to represent them in the sale of their home. And most agents can't do that.
It's such a cool thing. And you know this because you hang out with a lot of high level people. But when you see that other side of all your buddies, it's like, hey, we play basketball all the time. But then you need an attorney and you sit down with him and you're like, holy cow, Jim, I had no idea. It all makes sense now. Like, you are truly a professional. That's what we want to do is when we sit down with these people, absolutely blow their socks off. And they're like, oh, it makes total sense now. I get it. You're my guy.
Number 6, they don't practice or role play or work on their skill set. Okay, so we are in the real estate sales business. I know a lot of agents don't believe that. They just keep fighting that truth, and it doesn't serve them. But if you believe that you're in a sales business and you look at your real estate license and it says real estate salesperson's license, well, sales is a skill. And like any skill, it's any dummy would tell you how you get better at any skills by practice, by getting the reps. For some reason, Ben, in our business, it doesn't happen. It's like you are a weirdo if you're role playing or practicing your presentation or filming your listing presentation or role playing your scripts, your dialogues, your objection handling. Literally, the agents at your company will look at you like something is like, you see those people over there? What are they doing over there? You know,
he's chanting to himself. What is going on?
He's chanting to him. Look at him. Look at him. Look. And it's like, no. It's just that the vast majority of the people in this business are the weirdos. And the anomalies are the people making all the money, you know? And it's so true. Like 10% of the industry make all the money. And the 90% are just sitting there waiting for time to go by until they're no longer in the business. And so professionals practice, period. And so I just scratch my head. I say, okay, you know this is a skills-based business. You are in the communication business. And I ask him, how often do you practice your communication? Well, I did that a couple times, but never. And I said, well, how do you expect to actually get better? And so much so that I think that most agents would be guilty of malpractice because they practice on their clients. And so they show up in a way where they don't know the market because they don't study the market. They don't know the inventory because they don't preview property. They don't know how to have a conversation around positioning or pricing the property because they don't practice it. They show up at a listing appointment with their friend, right, in a backwards hat and flip flops, right, entitled to earn the business, not have ever practiced or role played anything, and then the person say, "Well, yeah, we'll get back to you," when they really mean they're going to hire a real professional, and then you're like, "I can't believe I'm not, dude." F that guy. We're not golf buddies anymore. Happens all the time. But this has to do with practicing a skill set and getting better at a skill because like any skill, you have to get the reps. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, that's game day, right? So we're only going to be as good as when we're pushed to perform, we're only going to be as good as our lowest level of skill.
Such a good point.
We think we'll show up and perform at our absolute best when we're on stage. It's the complete opposite.
Wow, what a great point. Yeah, we operate to our lowest standards, not to our greatest ambition. And you're so right. It's like people don't spend any time in preparation. And when it comes time to perform, they perform like absolute hell. And then they're like, well, why? It's because proper preparation prevents poor performance. And so if you don't have any system around the preparation, you're going to perform like absolute shit, period.
That's right.
All right. Number 7, people that are headed towards failure, they don't have any accountability in their business. They have no visibility. They have no coach. They have no person in their business holding them accountable to do the things they said they wanted to do in order to get the results they said they wanted. And so what we know about human beings, it's not just a realtor thing, it's a human thing. That just left on our own, we are going to take the path of least resistance. Everybody knows that. That's the thing, Ben. I say that on this podcast, and not one person says, oh, wow, that was good, Brandon. Never heard that before. Every single person's heard it before, yet they still don't have it then in their business. And it's amazing to me, and then the people that say they want accountability don't actually want it. You know what I mean? They say they want real accountability, but what they mean is, I want you to do it for me. I want you to come get me out of bed. They want to be able to blame somebody, and that's not accountability. And so, you see the agents that just fail out of this business or headed that direction. They have nobody that has any visibility into their daily activities. They're not responsible for turning in any type of daily activities or executing on the things that they say they're going to do. Yet, if you look at all the people in all the companies that make all the money, that are selling all the houses, they have high levels of accountability, high levels of transparency, high levels of visibility that they're having to prove throughout the day to somebody, an accountability partner, a coach, or somebody, that they're doing the things that would lead them to becoming successful. And those that don't.
So good. I believe that there's 3 levels of accountability, and I believe that people have it backwards. Okay. I think people start with self-accountability and they feel like they need to earn the other 2 levels, one being a coach. I'm going to go get my skill to a certain level. I'm going to get my production to a certain level, then hire a coach. And I think it's complete opposite, right? Yeah. You've got to get the coach and get that accountability so you can build the skill set. The second level, which is like peers, you got to get around peers. They'll help call you out. And then once you get those 2 and enough time, then you have that as self-accountability, right? Look at a Navy SEAL.
So true.
Right? He has somebody that trains him. He's got his peers that he goes through boot camp with that hold him accountable. Dude, get out of bed, shine your boots, do all that kind of stuff. But when he gets out of the military, he's always a Navy SEAL, right? He wakes up every morning at 4:30. He makes his bed. He does all these things. It's ingrained in him. There's no way he won't do it now, but we expect to be that way from day one and then go to boot camp, then get the coach, and it's just backwards.
Absolute fire. Absolute nail on the head, Ben. It's like, I don't need any of that. It's like, what evidence do you have based on your current results that says otherwise? You know what I mean? Like, people are like, well, I don't need any of that. Well, it's like, okay, well, you don't have the results. You've never gotten the results you just told me you wanted. You've never earned the money that you say you wanted, ever. And yet, to your point, it's totally and utterly backwards. They say to themselves, well, once I'm successful, I'll get the thing. And I said, there's a big gap in between where you are now and where you say you want to go. And you've proven to yourself that you can't do it alone. And so why people continue to operate that way, it's a lack of self-awareness that keeps them stuck for so long versus just surrendering to say, I'm just a human. I'm like anybody else, myself included. That's why I need a coach always. That's why I need accountability always. That's why I need visibility always, because you and I are no different. You know what I mean? I'm holding you accountable, and we have visibility around what it is that we're doing together every single day. Do we not?
That's right. And I'm just gonna shoot everybody in the audience dead straight, look them straight in the eyes, and not talk about the military or losing weight. But the amount of people that we talk to on a daily basis that tell us, I love Brandon. I absolutely want to be in his coaching, but I need to start prospecting first. I need to sell one more house. I need to get to this certain level before I get coaching. I mean, it's insane the amount of people that say that. So I'm just going to say, just as direct as I can, like, that's the disconnect.
It's backwards.
It is.
I mean, had you had the thing to get you to sell more houses, you wouldn't have reached out for coaching. Like, what are you missing, my friend?
Yeah.
Anyway, that's a whole podcast in and by itself. All right. Number 8. This is a big one, right? So when I own my company, this is a huge warning sign. When agents start asking for advances on their commission check. All right. Well, you got to ask yourself, well, why is this happening? Okay. Well, one of the bad behaviors of agents that don't make it in this business is they're really, really bad managing money. Well, 2 things. They're bad at making a lot of money, so they don't have a lot of it. And then when they get a check, they're so emotional. To your point, their emotional intelligence and emotional maturity is so low. Here's a large portion of this industry is they're broke most of the time. And because they don't know how to handle money, when they come across an $18,000 commission check, they're so emotional, they blow the whole thing. They go buy the new car, they go get the new suit, they go do something stupid with the money because that's a broke person's mentality, is to live above their means. And so this is a huge warning sign that this person is just, because here's the thing. People don't have business problems. They have personal problems that show up in their business. And this is one of those things that when real estate agents start asking for advances on a closing that's coming up in a couple of weeks, you got to look into that. You got to say, well, that's a huge red flag that this agent is heading down a path that is not good. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. We look at what are you investing in, but are you investing in material things? Are you investing in buying back your time? Are you investing in knowledge, like to further your skill set? So like, what are you using that money with? Of course, you have needs that have to be met.
Of course.
But I think just understanding, we talk to a lot of agents that have this, I got one commission check for 20 grand, or I had 1 month where I made a lot of money. And now all of a sudden they have this belief that this is the new reality. Like it's just always going to be this way. I hit the level 10, I can't go down again. And that I feel like is often a disconnect that puts people in a bad place because they think this is the new reality. So they go and spend the money on the thing that is not going to help them continue to stay at that level that they're at.
Yeah, because the thing about success is it has a lot more to do with character traits than it does tactics or strategies. And so you have to work on yourself. You have to work on discipline. You have to work on focus. You have to work on, controlling your impulses, and this roller coaster ride of like, again, agents don't do any business for 4 months. Then they get this check and now they're rich, right? And now it's like, well, that's just a bad character flaw. You know what I mean? And it's like, we've got to work on that character to build the level of income. And that's the other thing, people don't understand that income is a reflection of character. I mean, that's what it is. And so if you're not where you want to be, it's not because you fail to understand the tactic or strategy. That's not what's happening here. We're going to talk about that one in a second too. It's because you lack self-discipline. You know what I mean? And so when they get this big check, it feeds into this insecurity that they live with, this lack of self-esteem, Ben, that they can't but help themselves. That's why they make fireworks about this closing, because they want everyone to believe that they're successful when they're not. You don't see the agent that's selling 100 homes a year posting, it's closing day, it's closing day, it's closing day, it's closing. You know what I mean? It's like the people that make the biggest noise around like what their job is. You know what I mean? Like your job is to sell houses. Why are you celebrating what you're supposed to be doing? It's those people that don't do it very often. You know what I mean? And so they have to use the money in an immature way to put on this front that things are happening when they really are not. And so that's why they make the dumb decision, is because they don't want to step on the scale. They don't want to face the reality. So when they get this check, they've told everybody how successful they are. And so when they finally get this $20,000 check, they have to go buy the watch and they got to go post about it. They have to go get the lease on the Mercedes or the BMW. It's like, look at how successful I am, And so they blow the cash because it's feeding into this insecure, self-absorbed, ego that is like leads them to their demise. It's crazy.
One of my favorite quotes that I remind myself of all the time, so I don't fall into this trap, because it's a trap and you can fall into it very easily, is success is rented, it is never owned, and the rent is due every single day.
That's right. I love that, dude. All right, number 9. It's never their fault. It's always someone else's fault. They play the victim. I mean, this is a warning sign that I see all the time. It's we talked about a lot of them already. It's the brokerage's fault. If I go to this other broker and I change my name badge from Billy Bob Real Estate to Nancy Sue Real Estate, I'm going to be successful. It's the lead provider's fault. It's the bad leads. That's what's going on. It's the market. It's where I live. I'm not kidding, Ben. I've told you this tons of times. There have been agents who have blamed where they live, and they have picked their families up, moved them across the country because it was the market's fault where they lived. Let alone there are tons of evidence of people in every market succeeding. They can't accept that. It's not them. They're not the reason. They're a victim, right? It's the that. It's always an excuse other than like the two thumb theory. It's never this guy's fault. It's always external. It's always playing the victim.
Extreme ownership. I mean, it's an amazing book. It's a great mindset to have. We are business owners. So when we accept the reality that no matter what happens, it's our fault, it takes so much. I don't know if this is the right word, but this is the feeling I get it takes so much pressure off because when everything's my fault, guess what? Now I have the ability to fix it.
That's exactly right.
If I blame everything, then it's out of my control.
You feel powerless, which brings hopelessness. And so extreme ownership brings actual a sense of fulfillment. Because I know it's within sight of my grasp to get the results that I want. And the victim doesn't live that way. So they always live in this world of hopelessness.
Short term, it might feel better to point the finger and be the victim, but it is, there's so much more pain in that. Short term, taking control of it and taking blame for it is painful, but it's so freeing long term.
Number 10, this saved maybe the best for last. Warning sign number 10 is that they're an information junkie, but they never execute. Oh boy, this is a big one. And a lot of people I think will relate to this. And we see it. We see a lot of them, don't we? We see a lot of these people that literally go from seminar to seminar. They collect online courses. They go to every free workshop. They go to every free webinar. They opt into everybody's email newsletter list. They go to every single brokerage. They've gotten every single CRM. They've gone to all of the free workshops at all of the different marketing seminars. But you ask them like, okay, well, of all that stuff, they don't do any of it. They just collect a graveyard of information. We call it mental masturbation. They don't actually apply anything. The person who goes through, I'm reading a new book every week. It's like, holy shit, it's a lot of books. Well, what did the one that you told me about last month? Give me one thing you've implemented from that book.
Brandon, I don't remember anything from that book.
I don't even remember what book you're talking about. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so this is so true in this business. I mean, this is the crux of shiny object syndrome, because we live in such a world of abundant information that, dude, it is a constant dopamine high all day long. Consume. Just so much information. And people truly believe like they're being productive. I'm not even BSing you. They feel like they're getting traction. Like they're like, all right, I'm doing good. Like I've got this information now. We call it the disease of knowledge, right? It's like people think because they know what and how to do something, they replace that for actually being able to do it. And they get them twisted. The lines are blurred. And then they wake up over a long enough period of time, and all they see is a graveyard of all the stuff they've collected and a bunch of half-built bridges they've executed on nothing. They've got no results, but they got a bunch of knowledge. They could tell you about every CRM, every marketing tactic. They could tell you about every PPC this, every advertising that. They could tell you about this company's model and that company's model. They just haven't done anything.
They've got a million bridges that they started to build, and they just didn't finish any of them. Right? It's this is your favorite. This is your favorite one. I know.
It is.
But it's really sad because when they follow the top producer, when they sit down, they instantly dismiss what that person is doing because, like, yeah, Brandon, I've heard of this. I don't get it. Like, there's got to be something I don't know that's keeping me from succeeding, and that's just not the reality.
So true, dude. They go on a lifelong mission of seeking information because they believe that, to your point, that they aren't where they want to be because they are lacking of some secret.
Silver bullet.
Silver bullet. I'm looking for the silver bullet. And they just collect, again, a graveyard of information. You see people collecting books, and then you go and open one of those books, and it's like, have you opened this thing? It's pretty crispy. You know what I mean? I don't see any highlights. I don't see any notes, no folded pages. You look at these books behind me, dude, it's like shit everywhere. You know what I mean? Of like, implement this tactic. When is this going into place? Talk to Ben about this. Highlight that. How are we working on this with inside of our business? Check with the team on that. Is Caitlin designing stuff this way, or she should be looking at, you know what I mean? It's like, why consume the information if you're not going to do anything about it? Because you want to be entertained. That's why we call it mental masturbation. You're just looking to be entertained, and it's like you're just wasting time. It's like, just go hang out on Netflix or something. You know what I mean?
This, for everybody in the audience, this is something that blows me away every single day because I have a unique position where I interact with you all the time, and I'm behind the scenes with you. When Brandon picks up a book and he's like, hey, Ben, this is a great book. We should read this together. No doubt, 5 minutes later, he is implementing what we were reading. We're on another meeting, and he has already made it his own. It blows me away every single time, Brandon. And it is one of your superpowers, but it's what we're talking about here. You do it, you walk it, you live it at a level that everybody should, but the way you do it, it blows me away every single time because you truly implement what you learn. You test it out, you fail, you tweak it, you make it your own, and then that's how you grow your skills so fast. You're not just consuming it. Yeah,
and I appreciate the words, and I think that from a tactical perspective, I think the thing to do is to take an approach of essentialism to your information consumption. So, like, less is more. Like, you'd be a lot better off, not you, Ben, I'm talking about us humans, if like you just focused on less voices, one methodology, and went deeper on that thing. So in other words, reading the same book over and 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 over versus 10 different books. You know what I mean? Like going deep on one person that you relate with content and going deeper on that thing, you would get much better results versus like consuming 25 influencers content and I just like them all, I don't want to miss anything. That's kind of why, it's like we just keep going back to the same stuff and having a deeper level of mastery and understanding so that we can implement what it is that we're learning,
That's right. That's right. And I've just had the privilege of having a front row seat to watch you carry the book around, highlight it, go through it. You're trying one little skill. I see it in all the emails. I'm like, oh, he's testing it out here. I see it on a coaching call. I see it on a podcast, but I have the back row or I'm behind the scenes and know what you've just learned and then see in real time how quick you are to implement it. And if we can all do that, then we can become not a professional consumer of information or course taker, but truly master these skills that we want. And we see you have, but we don't, I think a lot of people miss out on is what you actually do to get to that level.